Jerome Powell and the Fed just unlocked the $23.7 trillion banking system in the United States to go all in on Bitcoin. But there's something that everybody is missing with all of this because the regulations have been backing off slowly and steady. Is Jamie Dimon and the big bankers now going to start to go all in on Bitcoin? Now, we'll wait and see and dive into all of that and more. But first, let's hear what they had to say on CNBC this morning.
Currency guidance. This is interesting, guys, because the Fed said it was withdrawing supervisory letters that said that banks should seek advance approval from authorities before engaging in crypto asset and stablecoin activities. In addition, the Fed, the FDIC, and the Office of the Controllers of the Currency pulled back statements from 2023 that urged banks to be careful when it comes to crypto-related risks. During the 2024 campaign for the White House, President Trump promised crypto investors that he would have their backs if he was reelected. In a statement announcing the latest changes, the Fed said that regulators would look into whether new guidance to support crypto asset innovation was appropriate. But it means effectively that I think a lot of the...
So would you look at that? The banks are now being unlocked to go all in on Bitcoin. We've had the fair share of bankers be extremely negative towards Bitcoin. So we're going to dive into who those bad players are. I'm sure many of you know already. But first, we've had hints of this for quite some time. Michael Saylor, the Giga Chad himself, came out and said, hey, when the large banks are able to hold Bitcoin on their balance sheet, everyone will want to buy it. No one will need to sell it, and you won't be able to afford it. Look at the timestamp on this, 10/26/21. So almost 4 years ago at this point, Michael Saylor had the vision of what would happen and seemingly is happening today. So let's dive into what the full caveats really went to say. So Powell said that the banks can provide crypto services. Granted, this was earlier this year. So they've really backed off on these regulations, and I'm breaking this news right now. So there's not any real-time articles breaking down all of this just yet. So we're getting into first come, first serve here. But this has been a gradual process. Jerome Powell and the Fed essentially have been loosening these regulations simply because of Donald Trump and what he's been pushing forward. So because of that, we're starting to see banks dip their toe in just a little bit, find a little way. Is the water warm or not? Really trying to test it out. And it all started back when Trump took office earlier this year. So Fed said that the banks can provide these crypto services, but they should be cautious, right? They were cautioning it. We're not against innovation, and we clearly don't want to take actions that would cause banks to terminate customers who are perfectly legal just because of the excess risk aversion that may be related to regulation and supervision. So they've had all these, but this is a huge backflip, right? Because who remembers when this was released? Just a couple years ago now at this point, the joint statement on crypto assets to banking organizations, essentially saying that it is a huge risk. They're going to do the risks to banking organizations. And now they're saying, hey, we're going to back off on all of these different regulations. In fact, we want to remove these handcuffs that we've put onto you guys so you guys can now freely offer Bitcoin and crypto to your constituents, to your customers, and everything along those lines, right? So it's interesting because the FDIC has now clarified and keeps having to revise all of these different regulations as far as the banking industry is going. And they did it again, right? On April 22nd or April 7th, 2022, the FDIC issued a letter that notification on activities which established a requirement to be supervised that wish to engage in crypto-related activities. They now rescinded all that. They took it all back because they may engage in permissible crypto-related activities without receiving FDIC approval prior. So this is absolutely massive because it essentially is removing a lot of the regulations and a lot of the handcuffs that plenty of others have seen for quite some time. And in fact, the crypto industry and Bitcoin as well, obviously, has seen that as well. I hate using that word crypto. You guys can potentially feel me cringe a little bit when I'm saying that. But let's look at how big the banking industry is, because look at that, $24 trillion worth of assets under management. And what else, right? Like, you get your family bank. The United States banking system is set up very uniquely where there's 6 big dogs in the house, right? There's 6 big players that are always in there and, kind of just offering all these different things. But what do banks do? They essentially say, hey, give me your money. We're going to lend it out and we're going to have somebody else pay a higher interest rate. And then we'll give you a lower interest rate while we take a little bit of that spread. Are they going to be doing that with their Bitcoin? Are you going to start to get yield on your Bitcoin through the banks? Who knows? I would just be very cautious with, that counterparty risk, right? What did we have earlier back in 2020 up in the Great White North? We had that truckers protest, which had a lot of bank accounts get seized and frozen. I have friends in the industry who've had their bank accounts frozen. I've had friends in the industry who haven't been able to get bank accounts simply because they had Bitcoin in their company name. So because of this, regulators have always been pretty have had some sort of animosity towards Bitcoin and through all this. So I would just be very cautious with holding your Bitcoin in a bank, even though they are some of the largest players. Now, with that, right? A lot of these big guys, a lot of high net worth people really have their trust in their bank, right? They've become wealthy because they've had great relationship with smaller banks, mid-sized banks, large banks, with all of these different banks around the world that have just said, hey, look, you've got a project, here's some money, go nuts, right? So let's look at the overview of this banking sector so we could dive in, right? There's a lot of different aspects that they do, the wealth management, corporate and investment banking. There's different regulations all around it. But in reality, there's just 6 big players in the United States that really hold the keys to everything, right? So Jamie Dimon, and we've seen Elizabeth Warren and others come out and say that banks need to be cautious when it comes to Bitcoin, especially Jamie Dimon and Pocahontas herself, right? Because they've been essentially realizing that Bitcoin takes the power away from the people. Bitcoin is a cautionary tale when it comes to a lot of these different regulators, right? So has Jamie Dimon, or will he flip the script when it comes to Bitcoin? Who knows? And I kind of doubt it unless unless publicly he starts to see like his clients are really, really pushing for Bitcoin. But the reality of this entire situation is that JP Morgan and these big banks, they've been offering these services. So no matter what these bank CEOs have done, right, they are offering Bitcoin to their constituents, to their clients, to their customers. They're continuing to do that, right? Even though we have Jamie Dimon calling crypto a decentralized Ponzi scheme. We've got this on this C-SPAN where Jamie Dimon calls crypto tokens decentralized Ponzi schemes. We've got, Jamie Dimon calling the industry an ire, really just coming out and being extremely negative to all of these different industries, right? Especially the Bitcoin industry. And it just shows that he really just doesn't know what's going on here, right? He thinks it's a Ponzi scheme. And look, this is earlier this year, right? So what I would caution everybody to do is watch what they do, not what they say when it comes to all of this, right? So we've seen, some regulators now start to back off and say, hey, you guys can offer Bitcoin to your customers. You could offer these kind of services. We're not going to require any more oversight or anything along those lines. And so that's going to unlock a ton of money towards Bitcoin. And what have we seen here recently? We've seen the Bitcoin price start to pump back up. We're at 95K right now. And we had a lot of bullish news that I went over yesterday as well, where we have sovereign wealth funds Coinbase's CEO coming out and saying that sovereign wealth funds are now buying Bitcoin. We've got now banks essentially getting unlocked and allowing their constituents to buy Bitcoin directly. Now, we've had banks already start to look into how they're going to hold. And the interesting aspect is a lot of these different banks are avoiding Coinbase as well. So I went over the paper Bitcoin potential attack in another video. So a lot of you guys that are in the chat know that already. But what I'm saying is that we're seeing banks already try to look at custody solutions for their clients and really look at how they can provide this service for them. So I think this industry is going to start moving very, very quickly here. And what is that going to do? That's going to push a bunch more money into Bitcoin very, very quickly. So even though we're seeing it still at 95,000, and this past week, we've seen a 12% little bump. The past month, a little 8% bump. So we're seeing a lot of positive signs and positive moves here when just a few days ago, before we were up 2% year to date, everybody was doom and gloom on Bitcoin. They thought it was over. They were saying, hang it up, folks. What are we doing here? Right? But everybody in Bitcoin is going to start to realize the true power of Bitcoin. And actually, the big power of all of this is holding your own keys and going through self-custody. Now, that's why I've partnered with the Psychopaths over at the Bitcoin Well. You can go to bitcoinwell.com/greencandle and sign up today, and they will give you a wishing well token. So every time you buy Bitcoin, you can earn more Bitcoin, potentially up to 1 million sats. Now, here's some of the caveats to earn some wishing well tokens. You will get 500 if you sign up through my bitcoinwell.com/greencandle. You'll get 500 on your first transaction. So there you go. Already 2 chances to potentially make to potentially win 1 million sats. Then you get $5 for every recurring buy. So set up those DCAs, folks, straight to cold storage. Either way, let's flip the token down here and let's see what we get redeeming these 500. Something went wrong over here. What do we got going on? All right. Well, either way, you guys can go to bitcoinwell.com. I'm going to fix this tab here while we've got some technical difficulties. I had it pulled up just slightly earlier, so let's see. We'll get it going. Oh, it's not letting me redeem my reward here. So unfortunately, I'm not going to get you guys any more tokens here right now, but I can get you some tokens as soon as you guys sign up here from bitcoinwell.com/greencandle. And if you want to be a big dog, big player, you could go scroll on down to that OTC desk and buy a big old 50K or more one, right? So if you're looking for that, go to bitcoinwell.com/greencandle. And lastly, if you need some hardware, we got bitbox.swiss/greencandle. They got the Bitbox 02. I prefer the Bitcoin only edition. You guys know me, I'm Bitcoin only. But if you've got some other things, get it off an exchange. And they've got the Steel wallet. You could punch your seed phrase into that. They've got it all in one. And you could use promo code GreenCandle to get it all 5% off for your entire thing. Because look what's coming, folks. We see Michael Saylor really pushing it out there. And we've got a very active chat. We got nearly 200 of you almost on YouTube right now. So we've got We Are Satoshi the GOAT, Kyle in the chat. What's going on, boss? As McLovin is saying, Bitcoin doesn't care what JP thinks. I agree. Don Franco, Bitcoin, the new wealth order. I like that. CS is saying banks are risk to its customers and BTC is the risk to the banks. Ooh, I like that. A little ominous. We got Johnny in the chat as well. So good to see all of you guys. And I will get those sats for you guys on the next one. So be sure to hit that subscribe and bell notification so you guys know. John McLovin saying, get it off exchange before something else does. Exactly, right? There's that counterparty risk that you have with banks, right? When you see things like this with JP Morgan and Jamie Dimon saying Bitcoin's a Ponzi scheme, it's used for criminals, even though these guys are saying all these negative things about Bitcoin, they are going to give you some sort of product that allows them to hold your Bitcoin for you. Now, why would you do that, folks? It doesn't make any sense, right? Be cautious when you're giving your Bitcoin to the banks or whoever. I would caution you to not do that at all. And I would encourage you to practice self-custody and move that way, because we're going to see Bitcoin become more and more valuable over time, right? We're going to see it. And you guys already know it. You guys all in the chat already see it. It's just a matter of time. Jamie Dimon was saying he was done talking about Bitcoin because he didn't care. He called it a pet rock. But JP Morgan is going to start offering Bitcoin service. So like I said, it's like, watch what they do, not what they say. Jamie Dimon's going to be extremely negative to it and is going to continue doing that. They've explored, JP Morgan has explored Connexes by doing some sort of blockchain for their stuff. So it's like, they're exploring different ways in order to implement and avoid Bitcoin, all while talking negatively in the public here. The analyst issues warnings, serious Wall Street Bitcoin price warnings. I mean, like, all of these headlines here about JP Morgan getting into Bitcoin are just ominous. They're obviously, into Bitcoin, looking into all of this. Jamie Dimon and his organization are some of the biggest criminals on the planet. As Jack Mahler said, it's Jeffrey Epstein's banker that you guys are listening to. But they've been looking at, this is literally on JP Morgan's asset management page. Does crypto deserve a place in portfolio construction? Like I said, watch what they do, not what they say. You could say the same thing about women here, folks, but maybe that's for another live stream. We're seeing Jamie Dimon say publicly that Bitcoin is for criminals, Bitcoin is for this, Bitcoin's for sex trafficking, it's for all of these negative things. Then what does he do? They offer these crypto services. They're saying, does it have a place in there? And now the Fed has come out and said, hey, we're going to loosen. Now they are saying, do what you like. Exact quote from Andrew Ross this morning is how he's interpreting what the Fed is saying with all of this, right? And so this is unlocking the largest money management system in the world to Bitcoin. Oh, Doug, I like this. He's saying, I'm looking for a BLOC, Bitcoin equity line of credit loans. Hey, man, they've got the HELOCs, so that's where he got it. So those who aren't familiar, it's similar to the home equity line of credit. Those are actually pretty insane. I've gotten one on my property that I'm sitting in here, and if that happens, that's going to unlock something that we've never seen before, because how a home equity line of credit currently works is you get 10 years where you just got to pay the interest only payments. So for example, you get that floating interest rate as well, because the Fed has interest rates very high. Once the Fed lowers interest rates, your interest payments also go down. So, I mean, you can kind of get some different ones of these products, but I'd be interested to see how these loan products transform and kind of go about that through Bitcoin, because I think that's going to flip something on the head. As soon as banking gets into it, it's going to be something that is just banana land. See this big spike that we had here, 2020? That's something that we're going to see with Bitcoin once we see banking and the amount of money start to come in here, right? We're going to see so much capital moving towards it because the banking sector is absolutely massive. And I don't think really people truly understand the power of Bitcoin. I agree. I wish I could get a super low interest rate loan against my Bitcoin. Unfortunately, they're not there yet, but I do think that those products and services are coming. And I think, McLovin, you're not the only guy. I'm not the only guy looking for these services. There's a lot of Bitcoiners around here. You can get your loans against your Charles Schwab, your, whatever account you got, your Robinhood account. You can get loans against those stock portfolios, but you can't get loans against your Bitcoin yet. And I think that's going to unlock a crazy, crazy amount of capital, especially now that the banking system is getting involved. Look, I'm not telling you to put your Bitcoin in a bank. I'm not telling you to trust Chase or Capital One, Bank of America, any of these guys with your Bitcoin. Hold your own keys, for Christ's sake, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, get it off an exchange. Do it quickly, all right? Because we're seeing, I know you guys want me to hit it. You came here early this morning as we're just flicking to the afternoon, because we got it at 12:06 Eastern time for you. That I know you guys are just itching for me to start singing that Bitcoin is going higher. We're going to see skyrockets in flight. Woo! Afternoon delight. I mean, look at this green candle that we're seeing over this week. 12% green candle is pretty nice over this 1 week time period. So we're going to start seeing this thing start to pump along. And I think everybody needs to be prepared. Buckle up, folks. Grab everybody, grab your family, put them on your back, and bring them along to this Bitcoin ride, because we are on a train and it's leaving the station, folks. So hurry up and get on. Thank you for all 200 of you for joining on YouTube and X. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Smoke the like Cheech and Chong, and hit the subscribe button with the bell notification. And I'll get those stats figured out for you guys so I can do that here very soon for you guys on the next one. Thank you guys all for tuning in.